I was just appalled. I couldn't believe that he was doing that. I mean, Jeff Bezos has always talked about having a variety of points of view on the op-ed page and welcoming that. The direction of the newspaper most recently has been to make sure that the coverage reflects, as they put it, all of America. And this runs totally counter to that. And so I was certainly disappointed, but really disgusted.
What do you think it will mean in practical terms? What difference will people see when they buy the Washington Post now?
Well, for decades, the Post has prided itself on running a whole variety of opinions on its opinion pages. Of course, it had its editorials that reflected its overall point of view for the editorial board, but then they welcomed all sorts of other opinions. But now what he signaled is that only one sort of opinion will be reflected on those pages. And that will be the opinion that he himself holds about economics, about personal liberties, what have you, and how he defines those terms. And look, that just totally runs counter to the history of so-called op-ed pages. The whole idea of those pages was that there would be a whole range of opinions, and then people could make up their minds. But now he's saying that only one opinion will be allowed on those pages, and that will be his opinion.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. On this episode of Upside Down World, we have to talk about the backlash that Jeff Bezos is getting from the left due to the fact that he is remaking the Washington Post, right? He is basically saying, listen, the Washington Post has been liberal propaganda for way too long, okay? And now we're going to change things, right? We're actually going to embrace personal liberties and free markets in our opinion section, okay? And anybody who doesn't align with that new vision, well, you can quit, right? You can leave, right? You can go. And that has resulted in some of the editors leaving the Washington Post. I mean, we already know a lot of people have resigned due to the fact that the Washington Post did not endorse Kamala Harris after Jeff Bezos stopped the editorial board from endorsing Kamala Harris.
The Washington Post is shaking things up. Owner Jeff Bezos announcing the paper has parted ways with its top opinion editor after Bezos shared his new vision for the opinion pages, which will narrow down to defend personal liberties and free markets. Viewpoints opposing these things will no longer be printed or published by the Post. Bezos shared a memo he sent to staff on X saying, "We are going to be writing every day in support and defense of two pillars, personal liberties and free markets." We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. I am of America and for America and proud to be so. Our country did not get here by being typical, and a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. I'm confident that free markets and personal liberties are right for America. I also believe these viewpoints are underserved in the current market of ideas and news opinion. I'm excited for us together to fill that void. In the memo, Bezos said he offered the opinions editor, David Shipley, to stay on and take the reins under this new directive. But Bezos said if it wasn't a hell yes, then it had to be a no. And with that, Shipley decided to step away. The Post chief executive said the changes to its opinion section are not about siding with any political party. He wrote in a memo to staff obtained by the New York Times, "This is about being crystal clear about what we stand for as a newspaper. Doing this is a critical part of serving as a premier news publication across America and for all Americans." However, not everyone at the Post is on board with the new changes. The Post chief economics reporter reacted to the news on X, saying massive encroachment by Jeff Bezos into the Washington Post opinion section today makes clear dissenting views will not be published or tolerated there. I still have not felt encroachment on my journalism on the news side of coverage, but if Bezos tries interfering with the news side, I will be quitting immediately and letting you know. The Post has seen its fair share of recent internal turmoil after Bezos blocked the paper's planned endorsement of Democratic candidate Kamala Harris last October, breaking a tradition dating back to 1976.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand, Jeff Bezos, as the owner of the Washington Post, has every right and ability to control what is in the opinion section of the newspaper, right? I mean, I get these people are complaining about an owner exercising his right as an owner of the paper to say, hey, this is what we want to focus on. This is what we want to talk about. Now, again, the left, they're accusing Jeff Bezos of viewpoint discrimination. It's if viewpoint discrimination didn't already exist at the Washington Post, right? I mean, considering how they're overwhelmingly liberal propaganda, they were discriminating against conservative viewpoints. Now, embracing personal liberties and free markets, that didn't used to be just a conservative thing, right? But apparently that's now just a conservative thing, right? It is conservative to say, hey, you know what? We want to focus on free markets and personal liberties. Yeah, that's the world that we're living in, which again implies that leftists are not for personal liberties and they're not pro free markets, which I mean is true, right? I mean, it's true. I mean, they essentially are exposing themselves. But what I really want you guys to understand is that Jeff Bezos is making this move because ultimately he sees that there's a better business model. The Washington Post is losing money, right? They're costing Jeff Bezos, like, I believe $70 million a year, okay, in losses. So he's subsidizing that newspaper, okay? They're not making any money. And in the digital era, it is very important for these news outlets to be able to find ways to make money, okay? And one outlet that has been successful, that is a model that Jeff Bezos is obviously trying to follow and to emulate, is the model of the Wall Street Journal, okay? So when he comes out here and he talks about, oh, we want to focus on personal liberties and free markets, he's basically trying to compete more with the Wall Street Journal, right? That's essentially what he's trying to do, okay? But, these people, the leftists, they're upset, they're mad because Jeff Bezos is transforming the Washington Post from liberal propaganda to a more neutral platform, and they can't stand neutrality because leftists can't win on a neutral playing field, and they prove this time and time and time again. So without further ado, let's get into it.
It's a ridiculous word game that's going on here. I mean, who doesn't believe in individual liberties? Who doesn't believe in free markets?
Yeah, so what's the problem? Right? That should be the problem. If nobody disagrees with those things, what is the problem? Right? What's the issue? Just say it. They're telling on themselves. Right? They're telling on themselves.
Ago, we lived in a democracy and capitalist country. Now we're in an oligarchy and a plutocracy, and things have changed. So for him to say that this is all...
These people, bro, I just can't. Again, they're saying we live in a plutocracy and an oligarchy. We haven't been living in that for the last, for as long as I can remember, right? For as long as I've been alive. I mean, we literally saw the Democrats, the billionaires, the oligarchy decide that, hey, you know what? The sitting president of the United States, he can't run anymore, right? And we're going to overthrow democracy within our own party in order to install somebody that nobody voted for. Right? Again, that was done by a oligarchy, right? The Democrat Party. Again, it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
All about individual liberty and free markets is rather like being fair and balanced, if you remember that phrase from another network. It's meaningless. It's vacuous. It means absolutely nothing. Who's going to be against those things? So clearly he's signaling that he's going to use these kinds of made-up words to say, I'm with Trump. And as you said, it's his paper. He owns it. He can drive it in the ground, which he's doing, having lost 300,000 subscribers after not endorsing Kamala Harris. It's his choice, but it's an important institution in this country that he's destroying.
So Marty Baron, who was the editor of the paper when Jeff Bezos first bought it, and I worked under Marty Baron for years, he was not an anti-Jeff Bezos person. In fact, they worked extremely closely together. Here's what he said to the Daily Beast today. He said, "There is no doubt in my mind that he's doing this out of fear of the consequences for his other business interests, Amazon, the source of his wealth, and Blue Origin, which represents his lifelong passion for space exploration. He has prioritized those commercial interests over the Post, and he is betraying the Post's long-standing principles to do so."
Well, I mean, there are no principles at the Post. The Post is losing money, right? I mean, let's be real. The Post is losing money. They're not profitable. You know what Jeff Bezos should do? Honestly, let's be real. He should just shut down the whole newspaper, right? It ain't making money. He might as well shut it down. Shut it down and just start a new one. That way these people can't complain. They can't complain because, I mean, these people, how can you complain about the guy that's subsidizing the paper? Without him, there would be no Washington Post. Because the Washington Post is not profitable, okay? They're not profitable. They're losing $70+ million a year. So I think that this move has more to do with the fact that, hey, the current direction of the Washington Post, right, being liberal propaganda, we can't make money off that. Let's actually go in a different direction and see if we can, generate a profit. I think it's about that more so than anything else.
you can't not take that seriously as a possibility here.
No, of course. I mean, this is what's going on. Billionaires have too much control over our media and are bringing their business concerns into our media. He can, as far as the human right of an owner to do whatever, but this is an incredible responsibility, or at least we used to think about it that way, to own an important piece of the media, a legacy piece of media. To treat it this way is to use it to.
Well, it's a commodity. It's another business that is being used as leverage in an effort to protect his other businesses.
Well, again, why is Abby Phillip, again, the so-called journalist, coming to that conclusion? You don't know that. Again, the Washington Post is losing money. So, I mean, they're making changes. I think it's more about saving the Washington Post from financial collapse rather than, well, he's trying to get money for his other businesses. These people are so silly. They're so silly that it's almost as if they forget that the Washington Post is a business and that they have to generate a profit, right? And to survive, they need to generate actual money, okay? It's almost as if they don't understand that. But again, this is what they want. They think that Jeff Bezos should subsidize the Washington Post into perpetuity because of the importance that it serves as an institution for liberal propaganda, right? That's what they believe. And I think that's why they're having such a hard time understanding what's happening here.
Well, I'm interested in a couple of the comments you made. You said it was destroying the newspaper because they failed to endorse Kamala Harris. I mean, what does that say about a newspaper that you have to endorse a certain political party and for it?
That's not the way it happened. What happened was that the editorial board had an editorial done and ready, and that was the process.
Right.
And then suddenly to say, oh, now we're not going to endorse. They've endorsed other things since. It was the process by which it went under there. And there's other things going on. Constantly in the paper, I now use the hashtags Broken Times and Broken Post. The headlines in both papers, I think, are constantly off, constantly trying to soft pedal what's going on. Yeah. You're not going to like what I'm saying next. But we are in the middle of a totalitarian fascist coup in this country. Yes. And when we don't call it that, when we soft pedal it, when we don't have a real discussion about it. At least here, I could say those words, we can have that discussion, but you will not see those words in the New York Times or the Washington Post.
So, Jeff, if we were being
because it's hyperbole, right? It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Okay? That's why you don't see those words. And again, they're still liberal propaganda. Let's be real. Okay? So those words are probably used anyways. But according to this guy, unless you write it in the title, unless you have some clickbait title from what, again, are supposed to be reputable news outlets in which they are fear-mongering about Trump in the most exaggerated way possible, then, hey, it's not good enough. They're not meeting the standard, okay? They're soft-pedaling a fascist dictatorship, according to these individuals. They're clowns, man. This is a complete and total clown show. For real.
But if we were being honest, there should be a breaking news banner on CNN and MSNBC all day long. Yes. We are in dictatorship right now.
Let me just say, from the perspective of free speech, right? You disagree with what he just said.
Yes.
But he has the right to say it.
Of course.
I'm not sure that he would have the right to say that in the pages of the Washington Post. Well, does that seem problematic?
Well, my second point was going to be that I think the categories of personal liberty and free markets are quite broad. I mean, you could fit a number of column topics. I've written thousands of newspaper columns in my life. You could fit a number of column topics under those two things. I also read his note, and he was saying that, there's lots of opinions out there, and we're going to focus on these sort of big ticket items. I don't think they're narrow. I think they're very large. I'll be interested to see what they're willing to publish.
You're saying we are only doing one side of those issues.
That's the thing.
Well, we'll see. These issues and not exploring both as a sides of the free market issue. It's going to be about the monopoly of Jeff Bezos to control the market. That's what we're talking about.
He has one newspaper. But one more thing. You said, who would be against individual liberties? It has not been that many years ago in this country when a great many public officials, elected and unelected, were adamantly opposed to individual liberties. It must be defended all the time, including the most important one, free speech, which you and I must agree on has to be defended at all times.
Well, right now we see that Donald Trump is kicking the Associated Press out of the press room. And by the way, the rest of the press is not standing up.
They're not in the press room.
That's not about...
They have a seat in the briefing room.
That's not about free press. That's about being afraid of what they're going to say, afraid of what they're going to do.
He's the most honest president.
It is so not.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Look at what we experienced the last 4 years.
Are you kidding? This whole notion of we're going to choose who we answer questions from, that is
He's frightened to death of free speech.
Yeah, which is exactly what Joe Biden did. Again, these people, It's almost as if we didn't live through the last 4 years. Everything they're complaining about, Democrats and Joe Biden did. Oh, they're picking and choosing who can ask the president questions. That's literally what Joe Biden did. He had a note card of the people in their faces because he can't remember them, right? He had a note card where they were telling him, hey, these are the people that you can call on. Wow. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
White House is going to choose who they're going to answer questions to. This attack on the journalism and freedom of speech, like that is the last bit of our democracy to uphold. And quite frankly, the fact that a billionaire is controlling how our media is going to cover this president when we understand.
Who's controlling? Elon's controlling the media?
Elon, well, he has social media, but the billionaire Jeff Bezos.
How many radio stations does George Soros own?
Listen.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
But George Soros is actually okay with different opinions.
There are more information sources than ever. We have the most democratized media that we've ever had. We have more people than ever that have access to disseminating information. It's not a bad thing.
One person at
It's not a bad thing. And look, he has one paper. There's lots of newspapers. There's lots of ways to get information right now. I think what's going on here is.
So are you agreeing? I mean, I think that what they're saying over here is that Jeff Bezos is actually moving the paper ideologically in a particular direction. It sounds like you're saying that that is what he's doing because he's trying to create a niche for the Washington Post.
What I read, yes.
And what's wrong with that? Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a business, right? Again, it's no different than any other network deciding that, hey, we're going to do things a little bit differently. This is not a controversy. Right? Again, these people talk, why are billionaires controlling the media? Well, billionaires control all of the media. Let's be real. Right? I mean, look at who runs Facebook? A billionaire, right? Who runs, a lot of these outlets? Billionaires. So, it's just so funny because if Jeff Bezos was supporting Democrats, they wouldn't be complaining. They would not. They would have nothing to say about it. But because he's now not anti-Trump, right? Because that's what it's really about. Because he's now not anti-Trump. Oh, well, this is so terrible. This is a bad thing. We can't have this. We can't have billionaires controlling our media. While, George Soros, he controls parts of the media, right? Again, this is not abnormal, right? Nothing happening right now is abnormal, but they're freaking out about it. It's crazy.
I agree that he's trying to carve out a niche for that opinion page, which may not be a terrible business idea, and I don't know what direction he's going to move it. But these two big topics are vital topics.
It's ridiculous. It's not a niche at all.
What's interesting about what he said was that he didn't define really what he meant by those topics, but he said any opinions that are in contradiction to them cannot be printed in the newspaper.
He thinks he's coming up with a niche, though, Abby. What's the Wall Street Journal? What's Rupert Murdoch? Will Lewis, who's the head of the company now, and Matt Murray, who's the editor, are both Murdoch trained. This is kind of a quiet, subtle takeover of the Murdoch world here. So it becomes another New York Post, Fox News, and Wall Street Journal. And, that's okay. He owns it. He could do what he wants. But as far as I'm concerned, it's my opinion that destroys the institution. And it's one of the few we have left.
The institution's already destroyed because they don't make money, right? They don't make money, so it's already destroyed. If it was up to these individuals, they continue to run into the ground and to have Jeff Bezos subsidize it, right? But I think he should just pull the plug on it, to be honest with you. I think he should just get rid of the whole thing. Show these people that they're a precious institution, right, for democracy. Just show them how fragile it is, right? Because, again, I don't think it's worth keeping. If they can't generate a profit, I don't know if the Washington Post should exist, right? Clearly it should exist if that's the case. So, you only can give so much credit to Jeff Bezos, though, because just like Mark Zuckerberg, he should have realized this a long time ago, right? This is coming because Trump won, because the American people showed that, hey, we don't agree with this far-left agenda. So now the billionaires are, now trying to evolve and to pivot in order to align with the American people. But they should have been on board with this before the election, right? Should not have took the election for them to realize this. And ultimately, that's why I only can give them so much credit, because if the pendulum swings back the other way, they'll go swinging back the other way as well, too, right? They'll turn on a dime. So, again, I only can give Bezos so much credit. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think what he's doing is a good thing, but he should have did it a long time ago. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.